I remember a time when I was a lot younger and my family still lived. In those days, I was often bored and didn't really know what to do with my life. I went to school in the morning, and in the afternoon, I did nothing but watch animated action shows of one kind or another, be they Western animation like He-Man or G.I. Joe, or Japanese anime like Naruto or Full Metal Alchemist. However, things got more interesting at night when my grandparents would watch a wide variety of films on our television, from drama classics like Gone with the Wind to over-the-top adventure like Jumanji. Indeed, those were the days, and while I could say that I didn't always like the movies they watched, I would say that those were the times when I knew what it truly meant to be happy. Hi, hello, and welcome again everybody to another episode of Natural Juan. This video was made in response to a friend who asked me to make a video about the films I thoroughly enjoyed. Before that though, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications for more content like this. Special shout out too to Mr. Jonathan Green, my patron in Patreon. If you would also like to support my channel and what I do here, you'll find my Patreon, PayPal, and Gcash information in the description below. Anyway, with all that out of the way, make sure you got your popcorn close at hand and remember to stay quiet as the show starts. God is in His holy temple. God is in His holy temple. Reverend Cain, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. Coming in at number 3 is Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, a 1986 horror film directed by Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame, and written and produced by the legendary Steven Spielberg. This is the first sequel to the highly successful film of 1982, and, despite being a sequel, is still highly regarded by fans of the first film. This is primarily because Poltergeist 2 expands greatly on the first Poltergeist film instead of trying to either redo it, as is common these days, and or simply bank on the popularity of its predecessor. Yes, there are plenty of ghosts in this film, with everything from lost souls being controlled by a darker power to the friendly spirits of lost loved ones such as the grandmother of the Freeling family. However, what makes this film stand out from the first Poltergeist films is the introduction of the demonic Reverend Cain, the ghost of an evil minister who plays the role of a false messiah and attempts to tear apart the Freeling family so that it can take Carol Ann, the young heroine of the first film, for himself. The story of Poltergeist 2, The Other Side kicks off almost immediately after the first one, when the Freeling family attempts to recover from both their financial losses, such as the destruction of their own home, and the mental and spiritual trauma brought about by their encounter with the supernatural. Unfortunately, while it is bad enough that no one seems to believe what happened to them, the evil that nearly took their lives is not done with them, and has returned to bring about havoc and despair upon them. Luckily, while the Freeling family may seem like they're facing overwhelming odds, it is proven that they are not alone in their fight when a Native American man with supernatural powers appears to them and provides them with help when they need it most. Much like the first film, there is very little violence or gore in the movie despite being part of the horror genre. While there is one part of the film that I would say isn't meant for children to see, I would still say that it is surprisingly wholesome and that Poltergeist 2, The Other Side can be a good film for the whole family to see. For instance, if one were to interpret the film, it shows that it was the power of love of the Freeling family that truly protected them from the powers of Reverend Cain. On another note, there are the various attempts made by the ghost of the grandmother of the family to reach out, even from beyond the grave, to warn the family of supernatural danger, from calling to Carol Ann through the child's toy phone, calling out to Diane, the mother, in her dreams, to possessing a random woman to tell a very important message. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. The Rolling Stones. Time is on my side. Coming Coming in at number 2 is the film Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman. When talking about horror movies with demonic possession as a central theme, most people will no doubt tell you that films like The Exorcist and some of its imitators are probably the scariest. For me though, it was the movie Fallen, made in 1998, that is truly terrifying as a demonic possession film. The film stars acclaimed actors like Denzel Washington, John Goodman, and Donald Sutherland. And while Fallen contains many supernatural elements such as demons, it doesn't really qualify as a horror movie, or at least I don't see it that way. Directed by Gregory Hoblit, Fallen is about a detective named John Hobbs, portrayed by Denzel Washington, who, with the help of his partner Jonesy, played by John Goodman, arrests a cunning and extremely dangerous serial killer, Edgar Reese, played by Elias Koteas. By capturing Reese, it seems that Detective Hobbs has done a great good in the world, and he personally sees the killer executed so that there is a form of closure for the death and terror the man has caused. However, it soon becomes apparent that the evil that drove Reese is far from dead, and that executing him only released it upon an unsuspecting world. While I want to discuss more about this film, I think it would be difficult to continue without exposing some plot points and ruin the whole thing for would-be viewers out there. Let's suffice it to say that John Hobbs can almost be thought of as a paragon among cops, who always wants to do the right thing regardless of the difficulty or sacrifice involved. This is precisely the reason why a demonic being takes a disturbing interest in him and plots to destroy both his reputation and his life. No, this movie doesn't have people who have spinning heads. Also, while I kinda expected a cult to show up somewhere along the way, they exist as barely a hint in that there might be people who willingly support demons or allow themselves to be possessed by them, but they are never shown on screen. What we are treated to, though, is a kind of cat-and-mouse game between a simple but good-hearted man and an ancient evil that has terrorized mankind for millennia. After all, wouldn't a demon who's lived for hundreds of thousands, or perhaps even billions of years, have better things to do than terrorize one family and their child? Wouldn't it make more sense for an extremely intelligent devil to manipulate humanity on a macro scale and cause unrest and turmoil through entire societies? One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jacob's Song. Coming in at number 1 is the fantasy film Ink, directed by Jamin Winans and made in 2009. Ink is a movie made with a minuscule budget with a cast of characters portrayed by actors like Christopher Kelly, Quinn Hanchar, and Jennifer Batter, who, at the time at least, were not well known and has special effects that doesn't really attract much attention. That said, the message and impact of this film is quite a big one, and watching it made me look back on earlier days when I was a child and life was still difficult, but a whole lot simpler. I am often accused of overthinking and overanalyzing things, but I have found this film very enjoyable if one were to not think too much over certain details about this film. Anyway, Ink begins when a mysterious hooded creature abducts a young girl from her own home and takes her to a kind of spirit world where they can see and hear the physical world but can't interact with it. It is here that we are introduced to the storytellers and the incubi, ethereal beings that are analogous to angels and demons respectively. Storytellers are a lot like angels and benevolent fairies, being able to bring people good dreams in their sleep and also protect them from hostile supernatural forces. Incubi are their polar opposites, being dark spirits dressed in expensive suits and wearing face screens that project an image of happiness, despite the fact that, behind them, they are all miserable, and they bring about nightmares upon unsuspecting sleepers. The movie follows the abducted young girl and a group of storytellers who are determined to rescue her. Among other storytellers who join the fray are Liev, a kind of female spirit who also serves as a kind of champion among her kind, who decides to follow the girl and the mysterious creature that took her away. Another would be the enigmatic but hilarious Jacob, who possesses uncanny powers despite being blind. As I've said, you'll enjoy the movie more if you don't think too much about it, and it kinda leaves a feeling of goodness. Much like with Fallen that I've talked about earlier, this is a movie with a surprising but sad twist in the end, and talking more about it will just ruin the fun. Suffice to say that this isn't a movie that makes a whole lot of sense, but that's actually what makes it so beautiful. Also, while you can say anything you want about the low-budget special effects, the story, characters, and setting are enough to shine on their own, reminding me of happier times. Anyway guys, that's it for this episode of Natural Juan. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. If you would also like to support my channel and what I do here, please check out my Patreon information in the description below, which also comes with my PayPal and GCash info for making quick, one-time donations. Natural Juan